What's happening guys, King GBL here, and welcome back to a brand new Great League video. In today's video we're going to be showcasing a Mudboy double flyer team with buffed Whiscash, buffed Skarmory, and Emolga. I was using this Pokemon as a spice pick a couple of days ago, but I was pleasantly surprised about how well it performed. We're seeing a lot of Skarmory, a lot of Talonflames in the sky, we have Mudboys hunting for them, we have grass types hunting for the Mudboys, and Emolga does quite well against all of them. On this team we have a Mudboy in the lead, which of course is there to deal with Lantern, which beats our backline. Emolga is basically there to hunt for Lantern, and because we're an electric type, the sparks are only neutral, meaning that most of the time you get off a couple of discharges, get the Lantern super low, look to farm it down with Whiscash, and hopefully come out with energy for whatever's in the back. I've always been a big fan of Mudboy double flyer. I'm not a big fan of flyer double Mudboy. I feel like that line is just very awkward to run, but I think a double flying line always works quite well. One of my favourite team from a couple of seasons ago was Noctowl Pidgeot with Swampert in the front. This is kind of a variation, the meta's completely shifted since then, and I think this season Emolga's in a much better place if you want to run it as like a slightly off meta pick or a bit more of a spice pick. I was quite surprised how many teams were basically core broken by it, and if you do have one built, it may be time to give it a try. In this matchup, I was quite surprised that the Altaria was shielding Acrobatics. We're going to go for Bait here. The opponent obviously thinks this is going to do a ton of damage, and you know, even though the sky attacks are resisted on this, I could potentially let one of them go, like take shielded advantage or something, but we do have Whiscash, there's no more Blizzard on this thing, and we're going to get off on Acrobatics on the Altaria. Guys, this really surprised me how much damage this thing done. Look how much damage Acrobatics does to a bulky Altaria. It takes it down from in the green to deep red. We come in with the Whiscash, go for the Scald, and that's going to be good games. Before we hop on into the rest of the video, thank you everybody who's been checking out the content recently. If you do enjoy these videos, always remember to drop a like and subscribe if you do want to see more videos. Thank you very much, it very much helps out the channel, and in this next game we had a very awkward lead, Ludicolo with buffed Bubble. I do go for a discharge in this, I don't even build up to the move. I know this Pokemon has Ice Beam, and he was basically just trying to chip this. This Pokemon is a little bit awkward, and then they come into Lantern. I'm not too sure why they don't just come straight into it. Like I said, Spark is neutral, but this is a very dominant matchup. As you can see here, we're getting off 2 discharges, which at this point is getting the Lantern decently low. The opponent cannot afford to farm me down here, otherwise we will take swap. And this is basically exactly what we want Emolga to do. Get the Lantern low, put it in farm down range for Whiscash, or of course if they don't have a Lantern, it can put in a lot of work otherwise. Even against the Bastiodon, as I mentioned, you are able to get off several discharges if they come into the farm down, and get them into a farm down range for Whiscash. Whiscash, being one of the thickest Mudboys, eats these surfs like they're nothing. We are down to about 35% health though. They go for an aggro swap. They don't want to get completely farmed down. Completely understandable. But at that point, we already had like 100 energy, so didn't really make a difference. Now this could be an Ice Beam. I do decide to save a shield for any potential move that they might throw with Lantern. And I think at this point, guys, we're going to commit to the resisted farm down. We're down a shield, but we've got energy on both Pokemon here. And in comes a Pidgeot. Speaking of which, now that I think about it, whenever I run double flyer, I love safe swapping it to Altaria, because that is a flying Pokemon that can actually beat Lantern. All you have to do in that matchup is shield up one Thunderbolt and you basically win it. The opponent goes straight for a Brave Bird. I thought they would. They have no reason not to. We farm the Lantern down. Back in comes Pidgeot. We're going to basically get off both of these moves right here, and we should be basically chilling at this point. I was a little bit unsure of the count here. I could have potentially just went for Brave Bird and won it all here, but we get the opponent super low. Go for a Scald, and that's going to be good games well played. So in this matchup, Emolga basically done exactly what we wanted it to do. We got the Lantern quite low, and we got the farm down, and of course got the energy. Now in this matchup right here, quite an interesting one. The opponent's staying in for the time being. I'm assuming they do want to swap out. They go into a Jellicent. Now what I decided to do is go for a chip off the Mud Bomb. One discharge does not quite KO, and Emolga, if they come back in with the Talonflame, is going to put on an absolute show for us here. I am expecting the opponent to go for a Shadow Ball. They do go for it straight away, and at this point, guys, we can go for a little bit of an overfarm. We go for 4 and Fro. I don't necessarily want to eat a Surf. I want to leave myself in a position where I can look to potentially get off 2 moves in Talonflame. We go for 2 and Fro for good timing, and the opponent will be at the move here. They can go for a Flame Charge immediately, so I'm perfectly happy with this. And I'm thinking, guys, if we can get this move in 3 Thunder Shocks, we can basically get this move off. The damage would have applied after 1 more Thunder Shock, so sometimes you don't throw in good timing just to get the move off. The opponent's down to 0 shields now. We still have Whiscash, and I'm expecting the opponent to go for an insta-swap into Victory Bell. The opponent's staying in here for a minute. I think the opponent's only win con, and it's not even really a win con at this point, is that I throw a move. I'm not throwing anything. The opponent top left, and yeah. Shadow Vic gets completely walled by Skarmory. Fun fact, it takes 4 Frenzy Plants from Shadow Venusaur to KO a Skarmory, so even in the 0 to 2, you beat Shadow Venusaur with Skarmory. It's such a hard wall. The opponent goes for a debuff, and they come into Poliwrath. The opponent clearly does not have a great answer. However, with the debuff and with Emolga being quite glassy, these counters are adding up. They CMP me on a pop, which I thought was quite interesting. That's going to allow me to get off another discharge, which I don't think KOs a Poly, but it is going to do an absolute ton of damage considering it is Shadow. They do shield it up, and at this point, guys, we come in with Skarmory. Now, I make a bit of a mistake here. I miscounted by 1. I thought they would have been at the Scald here. Definitely miscount, it's only the Icy Wind. We can definitely let that go. However, with Pop, it actually would have done a decent amount of damage. Now, the opponent's CMP's on another Pop, so this is perfectly fine. And you're seeing how much a Power Punch does from an attack-boosted Shadow Poly, so it probably was good that we shielded the Icy Wind. Despite the debuff to our attack, we do get that off, and in comes Golbat. We're going to YOLO the Brave Bird and basically look to go for a sweep here. Brave Bird coming through. Doesn't actually KO it, which is quite surprising, and in comes Azu. This is actually a decent enough matchup for Azu with Whiscash. I do believe Whiscash wins this matchup if they're on Ice Beam Play Rough. With us being up a shield, we certainly do win this matchup, and we should be in quite a decent position here. They go for an Ice Beam. I let the first move go, just in case they want to go for the cheaper move first, which in this case they definitely did. So they're either on Ice Beam Play Rough or Ice Beam Hydro Pump. I would probably put money on the fact that it's Play Rough, but I think at this point the opponent should just go straight Ice Beam. Now the clock should be up here in a second, so I am expecting the opponent to go for a swap out. I'm going to shield this move. The opponent's going to go for a snipe, and I actually didn't realize that they had enough for the Poison Fang here. We do swap out immediately, play with the debuff, we've banked the move, and all we basically need to do is farm it into a range where we can CMP the Mud Bomb. That's good games well played. The opponent had a Golbat lead, Poliwrath swap, and a Zoomerl in the back. Sure bro, good luck with any lanterns that you find. Emolga, you know, even though Corbric's a team, Lantern would just absolutely destroy it. So here comes Deoxys lead, quite an interesting one. This is a pretty fine lead for Whiscash. They can go for Psycho Boost and dip here, which is perfectly fine by me, and they're actually staying in for a second, which is quite odd. So maybe Whiscash is low-key core breaking this team. Traditionally, Deoxys teams are weak to counter in the back. The opponent does go for a swap, and we're going to look to go for a chip and dip right here, and look to swap into our Skarmory. With Whiscash being a mud boy, it resists the electric shocks. Also, Emolga is quite glassy, so we do sort of not want to shield here if possible. They can't exactly farm down the Skarmory. I'm going to basically get rid of this thing as soon as possible, farm it the whole way down. We'll come out with a Brave Bird for the Deoxys if it comes back in. Look to CMP it or whatever the case may be. And yeah, that's called not going to quite do enough. And the opponent actually comes into their own Skarmory here. What I decide to do is go for Brave Bird, which basically gives them less farm on the other side. It does a nice little chunk, and we do end up swapping out here into Emolga, knowing that if we get a slight energy lead, we can look to basically sweep this with Emolga and the Whiscash. Not trying to give the opponent any additional farm. I think that's a bit of a lose con for me in that situation, because I know that they're super low on this thing. All I basically need to do is farm this the whole way down, and basically look to put in damage. We're putting the opponent in a position where they have to permanently debuff themselves if they want to KO Emolga, and at this point, the sparks and discharges and everything will add up. We do get the shield off the opponent, and you're about to see here that a Brave Bird from Skarmory actually does not do that much. We're going to go into Whiscash. I end up going for the Mud Bomb here, thinking that it does about 30%. I was a little bit off track in energy, so I did not want to come out of here without throwing a move. The opponent kind of realizes it's over, but I think the safest play was to go for a Scald. However, the opponent needed to build up to back-to-back moves, which really was not going to happen. We would have outpaced to another Mud Bomb, and they wouldn't have had the move for the Emolga, so good games nonetheless, and we do end up going 5-0 in that set, which is absolutely sensational. Overall, went very positive with his team, and in this next matchup, we've got a Deoxys. They're going to build the whole way up to 10, go for a Psycho Boost most likely. What I've noticed is a lot of Deoxys leads don't have a great answer to Whiscash in the back, so it might be worth safe swapping a little bit earlier in this match. As you've seen earlier, we let our Whiscash get low and it can actually come back to bite you. The opponent goes for a Thunderbolt, which I'm not really too sure about that one, Chief, to be honest with you. By the looks of things, the opponent does want to stay in this matchup for a while, and because they're shielding here, I decide, okay, even though they are debuffed, we'll match the shield. We'll make sure that we have some health on this to get off a couple of moves on whatever's in the back. And they actually come into a Vigoroth, which is quite interesting. We chip it down and put it into Sky Attack range, basically. I don't want to come into Emolga, because I'm pretty sure a Rock Slide would come very close to KOing. Rock Slides on Skarmory don't really do the most damage. We're going to go for a slight overfarm here, and I'm really glad I went for this chip, because as you're about to see here, the opponent's trying to shield through this and get switch advantage. They do not want to see Whiscash on something in the back by the looks of things. The thing is, I know that I can basically just farm it down. They can't go for a bait and a move. They could maybe go for 2 body slams, probably not though. And in comes Bastiodon, so that kind of makes sense. They're very weak to this in the back. We're going to go for a big Brave Bird on this Basti, and basically try to hold on to alignment. This match is getting very close because we did let our Pokemon get quite low, and the Deoxys here is going to be able to get off a Thunderbolt. I think the Basti here is on a couple of smackdowns. We of course definitely don't want it to get off a bunch of moves. I decided to get rid of this thing because I don't want them to be super healthy, to the point where they can maybe get off a Psycho Boost and, you know, get my Whiscash super low, put it in Smackdown range. We're going to go for discharges on this, and we're hoping that this puts it into Mud Bomb range. Mud Bomb does about 40%. Can we get off this next discharge? This is absolutely vital. If we have any chance of winning this game, if we can survive a move, we really needed that discharge. The opponent is just getting to the move. Can Thick Daddy Cash live this move? Decently comfortably, actually. We get there just in time. Had it been one more move, literally one more turn, would have KO'd us there, so very, very close match in the end. And I guess this is a new team, a double beak to a counter in the back with Deoxys lead. I think Deoxys will be pretty much everywhere this season. Deoxys is going to be basically the new Medicham. I mean, it always was, right? It's always been quite popular, but I think with Medicham sort of not out of the picture, but a little bit less versatile, I think we will start to see a lot more defense Deoxys teams. Anyway, here comes Gradient. This thing's super, super annoying. I just decided to YOLO off the move here. I didn't really expect the opponent to shield, but they do shield it. Acrobatics would have KO'd from there, and the opponent is happy to go down a shield. Now, I do get to the move here. I could potentially go for it, but I decide they're on Body Slam. It might be on Trailblaze. So I might as well come into Skarmory and basically farm it the whole way down. The opponent insta-swaps into Azu, and I'm perfectly happy with this. Knowing that the opponent is down a shield, they're not going to shield this Brave Bird. And once we get this through, boom, we can put it into like 30% range, into like double Mud Bomb range. I can potentially look to come out with a move even for Gradient. I decided to shield this. They did farm all the way up to the Hydro Pump, and I think that was a great shield. That would have got me down into the yellow, into the deep yellow probably at that point. And yeah, super, super happy with that one. I overfarm a little bit here, and look to go for another Mud Bomb, leaving us a little bit of extra energy for the Gradient. Leaving us, the opponent goes for a shield, absolute mad lad. We're going to shield this straight back. And I'm thinking the Gradient does have Trailblaze, but I don't think it actually KOs me. The opponent swaps in and does go for the move here. Is it Trailblaze? It's actually Body Slam, which is kind of weird. I go for Skull to get it quite low, and we're going to look to basically farm it down with Skarmory, and hopefully come out with energy for whatever's in the back. The opponent has a low health Azu, and let's see what they're running in the back. They're thinking long and hard, waiting down the switch clock. It is Deoxys. So yeah, this is a little bit awkward. They can go for a Psycho Boost here, or a Rock Slide, I guess it was. Yeah, they're on Rock Slide, quite interesting. I wonder if Rock Slide is the play with all of the Talonflames. I decided to build up to back-to-back Scat attacks. I sort of need to remember that you get to the Scat attack and Brave Bird at the same time. That was something I'm not quite used to yet, but this one Scat attack will get them very, very low, to the point where they can't really do anything. They go for a swap on Azu, it doesn't really help out too much, and that's going to be good games. In the next match, we get the Dream lead. It is Big Clodsire, which I think is a very strong pick for the season, but with Static Cash just dunks all over it. We're going to farm up on CMP in the Earthquake. Earthquake does not really do that much damage. Like I said before, it doesn't one-shot a Swampert. And Big Skull coming through, I believe a Scald and a Mud Bomb is certainly the play to go for the KO here. I don't necessarily want to eat another Earthquake, so we'll go for this move, and hopefully this should be enough to KO. Quite weird that the opponent's staying in. Makes me think they might be quite weak to it. They go for a swap into Venusaur, and then come for a swap into Lantern. Once again, guys, you're going to see the power of Emolga. Since we have a Whiscash, which is decently healthy, the opponent does need to get extra farm here. So at this point, like, yeah, sure, take me out if you want to, but we're going to get off 2 discharges, 1 Thunderbolt does not KO, and that's going to basically put them in a range where, even if we can't take it out with Whiscash, we can look to farm it down probably with Skarmory. Look how low we're getting this Lantern. It's down to about 15% health. We're going to go straight for the Mud Bomb, and if the opponent lets us go, this is perfectly fine. We have the hardest wall of all in the back for the Victor Bell, or the Venusaur. As I mentioned before, these Frenzies do about 23% or something, so pretty horrible matchup for Venusaur. In the next match, we get exactly what we're hunting for, the Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death himself. We're going to stay in, and the opponent's going to stay in as well. The opponent's going to stay in as well. Could it be that you're core broken by Whiscash? They let it go. They let it go, ladies and gents. At this point, I'm like, yeah, this is probably a Brave Bird, so we're just going to shield this up. It is a Fly. Not too sure why the opponent's staying in here. I decide to stay in, go for the Mud Bomb, not allow them to get to a second Fly, and we'll see what they come into. They come into Trevenant, instantly swap into Emolga. The opponent does me a massive favour here. They come into Quagsire. Had the opponent stayed in there and went for Shadow Ball, that would have put me in a very awkward spot. Emolga does not by any stretch of the imagination live a Shadow Ball, so the opponent could have been up 2 shields in this situation, which would have been a lot better for them. I'm trying to get off the next move. We actually go for the Discharge and Undercharge. I wanted to throw the move to get the shield, but the opponent does not shield, but since I'm throwing the move, I don't want to charge it because the opponent's still switch locked and we can look to get an extra farm here with our Whiscash. I decide that hopefully, since I've not been getting very many Scald debuffs, I can finally get one. And you're about to see here that Scald from this actually does a decent amount of damage to Trevenant. It's kind of a situation like Shadow Swampert, where like 2 of these KOs, it's not quite that much, but you're seeing that we're actually going to be forcing a shield off the Trevenant with Scald from Static Cash. And yeah, this is basically game over. We do get the 50% chance of the debuff now. I feel like I got this probably like 15%, let alone 50. The opponent probably realizes this is just about over here. I think I do live another Shadow Ball, but I decide I'm not going to risk it here. There's no point. We're going to farm it the whole way down. That's basically curtains for the opponent. The Quags are super low. Even if they do take us out, we probably win the Mud Shot down, and yeah, good games. We get a very good lead as well. We're getting great leads in this final set of battles here. We have a Vigoroth. Once again, I do like chipping this thing, just in case they do try to fight for switch on you. Again, we come into Skarmory because we can look to live these moves a lot more comfortably. And we're basically going to look to get rid of this thing before they get to the next rock slide. See what the opponent really wants to do here. Yeah, we just get this move off immediately. Try to retain some health. And hopefully put in some work on the other side. Once again, the Vigoroth is shielding, which I just don't think is the play. I think your best case scenario is to probably like chip the Skarmory down a little bit and then look to work from there. You're never taking switch, so I feel like shielding's not really worth it in this matchup. They do come into a lantern, so it's like, you know, what was the point in shielding? They could have got extra farm. I'm perfectly happy with that scenario. Of course, in that situation, the opponent is really just trying to fight for alignment. In the 1-to-1 shield, I'm thinking, no way you shield this acrobatics, right? Certainly not. Certainly not. They actually do let it go, and that's done so much, guys. Altaria is a bulky boy, and yeah, Emolga just ripped for it there. I think they go for Dragon Pulse, but arguably I could have let that go. However, this is a very awkward matchup for Whiscash. Not having, like I said, Blizzard and Scald and everything being resisted, it was definitely getting awkward. I was hoping here at this point we could look to go for a Discharge, put it into Mud Bomb range, swap out as soon as possible. Unfortunately, they do get the full farm down, which is pretty annoying, and we do finally come into Whiscash. At this point, guys, it's really just a race. We need to get to back-to-back Mud Bombs. The opponent needs to get to 2 more Surfs. If we get to the Mud Bombs, we win. If the opponent gets to the Surfs, they win. We're definitely in Surf range here, and we end up CMPing on the move. Super unfortunate. Had it been one more turn, like if I got one more Mud Shot somewhere, I would have won that game. And, you know, games like that really make you think, like, where could I have overfarmed slightly better? If I was counting a little bit better, could I have won this match? I definitely could have won this match. There definitely was an opportunity to overfarm there at some point. We have an Azulite and we come straight into Emolga. Emolga is the safe swap in this team, like I said, to draw out the Lantern. It would be very weird of this team to be AB weak to this. Azu actually beats this Pokemon, so like they don't really have to shield that first move. I'm happy enough to shield back. If they're staying in this matchup, I'm more than happy to stay in here. Azu's just kind of too thick for Emolga. Discharges do chunk, but they don't really do that much damage. I think the opponent's being a little bit too scared here. The great thing is though, they do not have a flying answer in the back, which is fantastic. For my Skarmory, we should be able to sweep with Skarmory, or so I thought. In comes Bastiodon. In comes Bastiodon, ladies and gents. Getting shields down for the Bastiodon. What an amazing strategy. We're going to go for 2 discharges here. Get the opponent quite low. And the opponent delayed the switch clock quite a lot, so I could swap out here. However, I decided to play hard alignment and just come straight into Whiscash here. The opponent's still locked in. And this is going to give me an opportunity to get a little bit of extra farm. And hopefully look to do work. We're going to at least build up to back-to-back. And I'm thinking at this point, could it be Victory Bell in the back? If it is Victory Bell, this 1 Mud Bomb is going to do an absolute ton of damage to it being a neutral move. And we'll see what the opponent wants to come into here. We've loaded energy for whatever wants to come in. The opponent is thinking long and hard. They come into Azu, which I guess makes sense. Azu's the bulky boy. Eat all this energy. And then they go for the insta-swap. I go for the insta-swap as well. And this is just game over. We farm this. Actually, we don't even farm it the whole way down. We don't give the opponent a chance to debuff us. We just get rid of this thing. Because Skarmory already beats Azu from this range anyway. So no need to do anything fancy, we just get rid of it and get rid of the Azu. Good games well played. Guys, I really enjoyed this team. I'm trying to think how much I went with it. I definitely went positive with it. I did have a 2 for 8 at the end. I had a 5-0 and a 3-2. I think I played 3 or 4 sets with the team, and overall, I think it's a very cool team. I think Emolga is just a very fun pick, and, you know, I'm not going to say it's a meta pick. You know, it's not a Pokemon that you definitely have to build or that's, you know, insanely good, but I think it actually has a unique role. And it's really decent for drawing out Lanterns. Lanterns beat it, but you do get it low enough. Oftentimes, a lot of flyers just get walled by Lantern, like Skarmory. Talonflame actually does a decent amount of damage against Lantern, but if the opponent throws the move immediately, you're basically dead, right? Whereas Emolga can live that move, get off 2 discharges, and put it in a guaranteed farm down range for your Mud Boy. So I do really like it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much, everybody. If you did enjoy the video, please drop a like, subscribe, and most of all, have a fantastic rest of your day.